It's time to strap up. The pads are coming on Monday at Washington Commanders training camp, and offensive lineman Cornelius Lucas is the primary player I will be watching. I'll tell you why on this episode of Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, David Harrison, credential member of the media covering the Washington Commanders for CommanderGameDay.com, part of Sports Illustrated suite of sites. I'm also your Friday host over at Locked On NFL. I'm here with you every Monday through Friday. Greatly appreciate you coming through today. Every dayers, greatly appreciate all of you for coming through every single day. This is your daily podcast covering the Washington Commanders. And if you haven't already, you can subscribe for free on YouTube or wherever you are catching this episode. On today's episode, we've got a very specific purpose for this entire episode. The pads are coming on. We are going through most of the position groups, if not all. I don't think we're hitting linebackers too much because I think we kind of all know what to expect out of the linebackers. I'm going through most of these position groups. We're going to talk about what we want to see. We're going to talk about who we are looking at specifically first day of practice with pads on. If you want to discuss that, share your targets for who you want to hear about and how they're performing. Or if you're going to be there and you want to tell us who you're going to be watching specifically with those pads on, all you got to do is text me. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders today. Become a Locked On Commanders insider. From there, you can text me your thoughts, your analysis, your opinions, your questions. Just have general discussions with me beyond the show. I'll text you bonus content. We've started insider-only Zoom conferences, a lot of fun things going on over there, live text during press conferences, practices, games coming up, obviously, all that kind of stuff. No apps, no filters, no hashtags. Literally, you just need your phone. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders, and we'll take it away from there. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As the playoffs have winded down in other professional sports, the sports stop sporting a little bit like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. You get something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. As the pads come on Monday for the Washington Commanders at training camp for the first time, the player I'm looking to see the most, offensive lineman Cornelius Lucas. Of course, given the rep share, given the splits of snaps that they've gotten so far at training camp, Cornelius Lucas looks to be firmly in the driver's seat as the starting left tackle. Now on Sunday, with Andrew Wiley sitting out the team drills as a right tackle, Cornelius Lucas actually got shifted to right tackle. Brandon Coleman got first team left tackle snaps. So that is not to say that this thing is solidified in any way, shape, or form. But if Cornelius Lucas wants to solidify this competition as quickly as possible, show this coaching staff that he is the man for the job, show the media who's maybe been sleeping on him that we're wrong for sleeping on him, show the fan base that some have been sleeping on him, that they're wrong for sleeping on him. He has got to do everything he can to dominate day one in pads. Now, we don't know at the time of this recording fully. Are we going to get the one-on-ones? We're going to do that stuff. This coaching staff has kind of taken a ramp it up type of approach to pretty much everything they've done. Now, in their minds, pads are on, one-on-ones. That's part of the ramp up process. Could be. Also could be first time we're in pads, so we're not going to go super heavy. We don't know. We'll have to see when we get out there. But anticipating the one-on-one drills, Cornelius Lucas is going to be going up against Dorrance Armstrong, Cleveland Farrell, Dante Fowler Jr., maybe Jamin Davis. He's got to go out there, handle his business. He's a big dude. Sometimes with those big tackles, though, what you end up having is they're a little bit clumsy on their feet. They're a little bit easy to get that center of gravity up higher, get them off balance to bull rush. Sometimes they're a little bit slow. If you can kind of give them an inside juke, maybe they bite too much, you can get around them, or you set them up outside, counter back inside, and do all those things. But Cornelius Lucas can stand up to all these pass rushers that the Washington Commanders have brought in. He can do a lot of help for himself because I'll tell you right now, if they do those one-on-ones, that's where everybody's attention is going to be. And of course, Brandon Coleman, the rookie, he's going to come in there trying to do the best that he can, try to show his coaching staff that he's got what it takes as well. But if Cornelius Lucas truly does have kind of that early lead or that pole position for that left tackle spot, coming in and solidifying that would be a big deal for him. And to do that, you got to win those one-on-ones in the team drills on 11 on 11s. You got to stand up to your guy. You got to protect your quarterback, especially the young rookie Jaden Daniels, who again can't get hit today, can't get hit during training camp. But those coaches are going to see that if a guy gets around you and could have hit him, that's a missed rep, and that's going to be a bad grade on your sheet. So that's the guy I'm watching the most, because I think the biggest race, the biggest battle in this training camp session right now is that left tackle position. Cornelius Lucas has the opportunity in front of him to take a very, very strong lead early on. It's not going to seal the deal. Like, nobody's going to come out of day one of pads and say, this guy is our starting left tackle. But again, he can build a lot of momentum for himself, do a lot of good for himself as well. On the other parts of the offensive line, you want to see that interior. Sam Cosmi, kind of a known commodity as a solid dude. Tyler Biotish as the center. We want to see how he's doing with his checks. We want to see how he's doing with his protection slides. And of course, as a blocker, and then left guard, Michael Dieter got a lot of the first team reps on Sunday for at left guard. Nick Allegretti has been getting the majority of them. So in that situation, again, Nick Allegretti has the opportunity as well to kind of solidify his positioning there as the lead dog in the left guard room. And then Andrew Wiley, he told us on Sunday, feeling some tightness, didn't specify where, but he said that he felt like he'd be good to go on Monday. So we'll see. We'll have to see if that's actually the case. If it's not, then it's going to be really interesting to see what this coaching staff does with that offensive line. Do they keep Brandon Coleman on the left, Cornelius Lucas on the right, or do they kind of flip-flop them? Do they swap them? It's going to be really interesting because I think with those pads on, you don't get all of the padded practices. You don't get a lot of padded practices during training camp, relatively speaking. So I think you definitely want to capitalize and maximize your potential and your ability to evaluate players with those pads on. Speaking of which, that's going to take us into our next group, the tight ends. And I'm going all the way down. Depends on who you talk to. I'm going down to Cole Turner. Some people think fourth tight end. Some people think maybe second tight end. Some people think third tight end. Nobody really thinks number one tight end. I think Zach Ertz pretty much has that thing in the bag. But Cole Turner's ceiling is all dependent on his blocking ability. How much has he grown as a blocker from last season to this season? This is going to be his first opportunity to be able to show that. What he showcases as a blocking tight end in this first practice with pads is going to be absolutely critical in the run game, in the pass game. If he's asked to stay in and chip or protect against a blitz, what have you, it's going to be absolutely crucial to Cole Turner's development. If he comes out and looks like a liability as a blocker, it's going to knock his projection on the depth chart down a peg or two to a lot of people. Right now, I still have Zach Ertz number one. I still think Ben Sinnett's going to earn that number two job by the end of the preseason. But right now, I've got John Bates as number two, Benson at three, Cole Turner is four. But Cole Turner is getting first team reps from time to time. He's getting those opportunities to get on the field with Marcus Mariota, with Jaden Daniels, showcase what he can do. Now at the pads on, like I said, he's got to go out there and he's got to show that ability to be an asset as a blocker as well as a receiver. Because if he can't block, every time you put him on the field, the defense is going to say, it's a pass, guys. This guy's on the field. And you can't do that as an offensive coordinator. But we're just getting started with our pads preview. First day in pads. What do we want to see? Who do we want to see it from? Running backs and pass rushers coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And this episode of Locked On Commanders is brought to you by FanDuel. I love sports, love them so much, never want them to stop. But as the NBA playoffs came to a close, the NHL playoffs came to a close, Major League Baseball, we're still, 2 months or so away from real competitive playoff baseball. The football season is just getting started. The sports simply just aren't sportsing the way that we want them to. We got the Olympics, which can be fun, certainly, depending on what you catch when you get to flip it on. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. Doesn't matter what's on television. All I have to do is open the app, dream up my bets anytime I'm in the mood, and boom, we are back in sportsing. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. New customers right now, you're getting $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's a pretty good deal. And this weekend, FanDuel had a no-sweat same-game parlay offer for Saturday and Sunday. Major League Baseball games, you craft your same-game parlay, at least three parlays, three bets stacked in that parlay. Certain other criteria had to be met, but if you place that bet, even if you lose, FanDuel credits your account back for that loss, so you really have nothing to lose. So head over to FanDuel.com, start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. What do we want to see from the pass rushers? Who are we looking at specifically from the pass rushers as the pads come on? That is coming up next on Locked On Commanders. Thanks for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day, every day. Thanks for coming through. Make sure you come back tomorrow because we're going to have a post-practice episode dropping Monday afternoon. After that first padded practice, I'll tell you how it went and how everybody measured up to our expectations. In the meantime, if you need more sports coverage, check out Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports channel streaming live for you every single day without all the screaming and drama that you get from some of the other networks. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So our next pads preview group, pass rushers, right? We're going to watch the pass rushers. We're watching the offensive line. You got to watch the pass rushers. Specifically, I'm looking for Cleveland Farrell every day. As you've been through here every day for our training camp notes, you heard me talk about Cleveland Farrell getting in the backfield really quick on a lot of these reps. And a lot is relative to the amount of reps they're actually taking, right? So it's only been 2 or 3 times, but they're not exactly taking a full game's worth of reps here every single practice. So 2 or 3 times is a pretty significant amount. So I want to know, because Cleveland Farrell is not known as a speed rusher. He is not known as a guy who's going to bend the edge ultimately and just wrap around an offensive tackle and get into the backfield. So is Cleveland Farrell digging in his bag and getting something tricky that people haven't seen from him? Or is there a problem on the offensive line? So this is kind of goes hand in hand with that offensive line, right? With Cornelius Lucas, Brandon Coleman, Trent Scott, Alex Akinbulu, whoever else they put out there at tackle. I'm going to be watching Cleveland Farrell specifically from an evaluation standpoint because I want to know, is Cleveland Farrell winning because there's no pads and maybe he just went harder than the other guy because you're not really supposed to be going fully, hard. You're not supposed to be going 100%. Maybe he went 100%. Or is this a legit? Because once pads come on, everybody's going, right? You're not supposed to go 100% because you're supposed to protect your teammate, but everybody's going. So I want to see, is Cleveland Farrell really faster, or is this O line really bad, or is this just kind of a fluke thing that just every once in a while people win? Dante Fowler Jr. certainly has looked fast as well, but you kind of expect that from him. Dorrance Armstrong Jr., he's supposed to be kind of that number one edge rusher in this defense. I want to see him live up to that hype, and I want to see him win some of those one-on-ones again, presuming that we do see some of the one-on-ones. And of course, he's not an edge rusher, right? But I want to see Jamin Davis. Jamin Davis has been doing some things. We interestingly saw him with his hand in the dirt on Sunday. Don't know if I really like that too much. I think he's much better as a stand-up edge rusher. But I think this team, again, the coach staff just kind of going through everything. Like, let's see what this looks like. Let's see how this feels. Let's see how this looks on you, type of thing. So I don't necessarily hate it for it, heading for it. But I do wonder if they do the one-on-ones, are we going to see Jamin Davis go up against a Brandon Coleman or, even a backup offensive tackle or whatever it is? It's going to be really intriguing to see. And then also to see how he looks if and when he does it. So pass rushers, definitely something that we want to see. That kind of blends into the linebackers, although Bobby Wagner, don't expect him to be doing a whole lot of pass rushing. But I do, I'm interested to see Frankie Louvu when they bring him on a blitz. I watched him with no pads on execute a blitz, and he ran right into two offensive linemen. And I'll tell you what, I'm not going to say he was going 100%, but he was going 100%. So Frankie Louvu is a man with his hair on fire when he's out there on the field. When you put pads on that dude, it's going to be another level. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing him. Jordan McGee as well. Looking forward to see that young fella continue to develop right in front of our eyes. Then we're looking at the running back position. That's the next position I'm looking at on the first padded practice. I want to see B-Rob. I want to see that physicality, but I also want to see how Austin Eckler looks in his first reps. But really, we kind of know who B-Rob is. We know who Austin Eckler is. I'm looking at that third running back position, right? Jeremy McNichols has been flashing. He's been doing a lot of good things. Chris Rodriguez, unfortunately, you guys know that's my guy. I'm pulling for him. He hasn't been flashing as much. So I want to see what the pads on. Chris Rodriguez is known as a very physical runner. If you go back to last season, specifically the Jets game, if you stuck through it and you watched all of it, you saw Chris Rodriguez really flash in that game and really was able to show a lot of that potential that I see in him, that I'm hoping that this coaching staff will be able to see in him and kind of help him as he continues to develop his NFL career. With the pads on, that's going to give him the most opportunity to really start to show that. And I'm hoping that maybe this competition become more of a competition, because right now, if you're just looking plainly at what you've seen on the field, Jeremy McNichols is looking like far and away probably the number 3 running back. And the question is, do the Commanders keep 4 running backs? If they do, I do believe it would be Chris Rodriguez, but are they going to keep 4? Are they going to roll with 3? The new kickoff rules are going to have something to do with that. Obviously, where they stack the rest of the depth chart will have something to do with that too. So if you're a running back on this depth chart, you want to secure that third spot as much as possible. First day in pads is the opportunity for these running backs to really kind of show if they deserve that spot behind Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler. But again, that's on the ball carrier side of things, run after catch side of things. You're also talking pass block, right? Again, if you have, I should say, because it's not, confirmed that it's a suspect offensive line, but we do suspect that it could be a suspect offensive line, right? So as an offensive coordinator, if you have a suspect offensive line, we talked about this all last year, there are things that you can do in your scheme, in your play calling to help that offensive line. You can obviously add blockers, maybe make Trent Scott an eligible receiver, extra blocker, right? Do that. You can leave a tight end in the formation to chip or to protect if they need to just fully stay and protect. You can all roll out, play actions, all those things. But you can also leave a running back in, right? You can leave your running back in the backfield. Don't actually kick them out as a receiver on a pass play and have them pick up a blitz, or at least have them chip on their way out. And again, I think that you want to see Brian Robinson. Is he still capable of doing that? I think that Brian Robinson honestly has kind of shown the potential to be and every down back can do every single thing you want a running back to do. How well can he do it? How much has he grown there? It's just always fun to watch a guy and see how much they've grown. Austin Eckler, where is his ability level going to be at there? But again, we kind of know where B Rob is. We know where Austin Eckler is. Those two positions and those two guys, their status on the team really not in question all that much. So the question then turns to those other guys, Chris Rodriguez again and Jeremy McNichols mainly. But you do have some other running backs that we don't want to just completely, remove all sensibility for. Certainly some practice squad candidates and all those things there, but I don't know that they're firmly in that running back number 3 competition right now. So it's kind of why we're not talking about them as much. But that pass blocking ability, right? If I'm an offensive coordinator and say I'm looking at Jeremy McNichols and yeah, maybe he caught more touchdown passes in training camp, maybe he had more explosive runs, but the dude can't pick up a blitz to save his life. Chris Rodriguez can keep Jaden Daniels from getting killed if I put him in here. And if I hand him the ball, he can run between the tackles. And if I really need to, he can catch the ball out of the backfield and run straight and gain some extra yards. That's where you can make up some ground. So Chris Rodriguez isn't necessarily going out there showing these dynamic plays the way that Jeremy McNichols is, which I'm telling you, he's not so far. This is another area during the blitz pickup drills that he can go ahead and make some ground up for himself. And again, we don't know exactly right now which drills we're actually going to see on day one, but I know that, one-on-ones with offensive linemen, pass rushers, blitz pickup drills with running backs, those are all just kind of common padded practice drills that we've seen, through my time covering the Buccaneers and obviously my time covering this team as well. But I've never covered a Dan Quinn training camp, never covered a Cliff Kingsbury, Joe Witt Jr. training camp. So I can't tell you exactly what we're going to see as far as drills are concerned there. But if we do get to see that, or when we get, because we will eventually get to see those things, that's something that we're going to be looking for from those running backs, especially the ones fighting for depth chart position. But of course, we're also going to be watching the quarterbacks. Ask Marcus Mariota about padded practice. What did he say? Why does it make a lot of sense? But why does it still mean we're actually going to watch them? And then, of course, wide receivers versus DBs. Who doesn't love a one-on-one wide receiver versus DB battle? Hopefully, we're going to see some of those on Monday as well as the pads get strapped on. Talk about that coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Commanders is brought to you by Game Time, and Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting Major League Baseball tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer that it gets to the first pitch. They've got killer last-minute deals that'll save you up to 60% sometimes, all-in prices, so there's no surprises when you go to check out. Views from your seats, you can see where you're going to be sitting, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying your baseball tickets. Friday, August 2nd, you can go see the Washington Nationals host the Milwaukee Brewers for as little as $5. Or if you're still in the DMV area and you want to see a game sooner, go see the Baltimore Orioles host the Toronto Blue Jays on Monday for as little as $12. Either way, take the guesswork out of buying your baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create your account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create your account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Wrapping up this episode, it's our Monday padded practice preview. First padded practice of Washington Commanders training camp this year. So I figured, good idea. Let's sit down. Let's preview let's preview the positions, what it means when they're going to have pads on, who we're looking for, what we want to see out of these players specifically when they have the pads on. Only got 2 more positions to go through: quarterback and wide receivers versus the defensive backs. So while wide receivers and DBs, obviously separate position groups, we're going to kind of lump them in together because obviously they're going to be going up against each other during the most important drills that we're going to see in pads. But quarterbacks, right? I actually asked Marcus Mariota, when the pads come on, given the fact that you can't be touched, can't be hit, how much does it really change your practice experience? And he said that it honestly doesn't. And this is, I'm paraphrasing him, but he basically said the quarterback position is obviously mostly cerebral, right? It's mental more than it is physical. So that's always kind of the important thing. So every practice, you're going out there working on that mental ability, the processing, decision making, the reading, all that kinds of stuff. But here's the thing too, that I think is important about a quarterback and how they practice and the decisions they make. What it does is it doesn't change the function necessarily, but it raises the stakes because now they're going to get hit. Now your receivers can actually be hit by a defensive back, and still these defensive backs, again, it's your teammate. So you don't want to go out there and clobber a guy. But if I'm going to make a play, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more against in wide receivers versus DBs, if I'm going to go make a play on a ball and I've got pads on, this guy's got pads on, I can go a little bit harder. So as a quarterback, while I can't get hit, so that doesn't change that part of my practice, I think where I put the ball, it just basically puts a little bit more ownership on where you put the ball, where you lead your receivers, because these DBs are going to be going after that ball a little bit harder than they have been the last few practices. So I do think that's an important part. So when we're watching Jaden Daniels, Marcus Mariota, Jeff Driscoll, we're going to want to see where's the ball placement. Does the ball placement change? Are you reacting to the practice scenario? Because right now, Jaden Daniels, like most of his passes, even some of the ones he's missed, they're still in good position. So you want to see that kind of continue. So I do think there's a little bit of a wrinkle. Obviously, Marcus knows better than I do as far as what it actually changes for you. I get it, but I do think there's a little bit of a new wrinkle, just an awareness thing that the quarterbacks have to be aware of, while they're throwing these passes. Now, wide receivers versus DB is really interesting because there's so many rules in the NFL where you can't hit a defensive receiver, you can't touch them after 5 yards, you can't make full contact, past 1 yard, all these things. And the interesting thing about it though is it's still a very physical process, right? The actual process of running a route, defending a route, still very physical. And you already know the defensive back that we're going to talk about here. We're going to talk about Emmanuel Forbes. Emmanuel Forbes is a guy who's absolutely got bullied. I'm really starting that first Philadelphia Eagles game last year. But from that point on, basically every team said, "Oh, we can bully this guy, so we're going to go out there and bully this guy." I would like to see the Washington Commanders try to bully him. Put Terry McLaurin out there, obviously. Put Jahan Dotson in that quickness and that agility out there as well. Luke McCaffrey's a little bit more of a traditional kind of bigger type of receiver. I mean, he's not big, you know what I mean? But he just kind of fits that mold a little bit better. Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint. I would love to see Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint and Emmanuel Forbes go one-on-one a couple of times. And let's see if Marcus can bully him. Let's see if Marcus can get in him and push him around and get in that frame and really kind of physically dominate him. I would not hate to see that at all. But if I'm going to go outside of Emmanuel Forbes, I'm also looking at Mike Sainristil. Mike Sainristil, the rookie nickel corner, he's been very impressive. He's been where he's needed to be. He looks like he fits in an NFL defense. All the compliments you can give a guy at this stage. But now the physicality starts to come in a little bit. Is he going to get pushed off the line? Is he going to get knocked off routes? Is he going to get bumped? How is this going to work? I'm really interested to see how Mike Sainristil, because he is a smaller dude. So I'm really interested to see how Mike Sainristil steps up to the plate. And then from the wide receiver position, Jahan Dotson, right? The concern with Jahan Dotson coming out of Penn State was getting off of press coverage. So we got pads on, guys to grab a little bit more, guys to get a little bit more physical. How do you stand up to that? And of course, Luke McCaffrey as well. Don't have as many concerns with that as you did with Jahan, just because Jahan's more of an agile. That's his game, is more agility and working in space. Whereas Luke McCaffrey is a little bit more of a tactician, relatively speaking. But I do want to see how the rookie reacts to contact for the first time on an NFL field with pads on against some of these guys, these veterans like Michael Davis and some of these other guys. Jeremy Chin maybe bumping him off of a route. I want to see how he responds to those things. So those are the guys we're looking at from the wide receiver defensive back room. So again, O-line, I'm starting off with Cornelius Lucas. Obviously, we're going to look at Brandon Coleman as well. Obviously, we're going to look at Nick Allegretti, Michael Dieter, Tyler Biadasz, all the new guys. The offensive line, a big focal point. But I'm starting it all off with Cornelius Lucas. Tight ends, I think Cole Turner has got a lot to prove, so we want to see what he's got. Pass rushers, Cleveland Farrell. Are the flashes that we've seen these first 4 practices real, or do we have a problem on the other side of the ball? So I'm starting there. And then, of course, Jamin Davis coming off the edge. Super intriguing. Frankie Louvu, can't wait to see him running around with pads on. Running backs, we're looking at that running back 3 competition between Chris Rodriguez and Jeremy McNichols. Quarterbacks, I got it. The practice doesn't change itself, but where you put the ball matters more now than it did before. So I'm going to be looking for that. And then wide receivers versus DBs, Jahan Dotson, Luke McCaffrey, Emmanuel Forbes, Mike Sainristil. 2 young first-round draft picks who have something to prove, 2 rookies who obviously have something to prove. That's going to wrap up today's episode of Locked On Commanders. Make sure you come back Monday afternoon. I will have a first padded practice recap review. We will talk about everything that we saw and how not all of these guys, because we can't do every single one of them, but we will talk about some of the biggest names on this list in that episode as well. In the meantime, if you got questions or you have anything you want to discuss, remember, join subtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. Become an insider today. Send me your thoughts. Send me your questions. Again, join subtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. Don't forget to also check out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever 24/7 live streaming sports channel on YouTube. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day, every day. Thank you for coming through the way that you do. Until we speak again, if you're out and about, please be safe, be kind. I will see you next time for another episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.